Good morning. This is Fresh Art International. I'm Cathy Byrd, and today we're broadcasting live from joltradio.org in Miami, Florida. The theme of today's show is contemporary performance art. And this art stands outside the market often, doesn't get as much attention and documentation as it might. Let's begin with the latest Fresh Art International podcast episode that I recorded with American artist William Pope.L. To most, he goes by Pope.L, and he's a legend in the field of performance art. I recorded a recent conversation with him in São Paulo, Brazil, where he created Baile, a 4-day street performance project featuring local dancers. Matheus Leston composed the audio track. Let's listen to a few minutes of his original composition, followed by the podcast episode. The track he composed conveyed the acute sense of anxiety and uncertainty surrounding political conflicts in Brazil this year. For me, these sounds channel the same conflicted emotions felt across America and around the world, actually, after the recent United States presidential election. Today we're taking you to the heart of São Paulo, Brazil, where late one night in September, I come upon a young couple wearing shrunken party clothes and skull masks. They're dancing to strange music on a street corner behind the Municipal Theater. I recognize the American artist William Pope.L standing nearby and realize that at last I've found Baile, or Ball, the performance art project he created for the 32nd São Paulo Biennial. Baile is a theatrical piece based on Pope.L's research into recent political frictions and social inequalities in Brazil. Pope.L is best known for the social commentary of his endurance projects. Earlier in his career, he performed Solo, a series of crawls along the streets of New York City. Baile is collaborative. Similar to Pull in Cleveland, Ohio, and Blink in New Orleans, the performance involves locals and takes place over several days, winding its way through neighborhoods. In São Paulo, 3 pairs of professional dancers take 8-hour shifts to perform 24 hours a day for 4 days. They walk and dance along a mapped-out route at the heart of the city. Festa de Debutante, the traditional coming-out party for young women in Brazil, inspires their costumes. They carry their soundtrack with speakers in a small backpack. 2 attendants dressed in white hoodies marked with black skull and crossbones follow a few steps behind. I joined Pope.L to shadow the last hours of the shift that will end at midnight. Together we trace a path through the urban landscape beneath the night sky.
It's an endurance. It crosses a lot of geographical areas in the city, poor, rich, high-rise, just regular residential. Trying to explore the city, trying to give a sense of the landscape, present it to people perhaps who've never seen this kind of work. There's a lot of people who've made this happen, just like with the project in New Orleans.
What motivated this project in particular?
Festa Debutante is like a coming out, and Brazil politically is going through certain throes or issues. It's a young democracy. It's trying to find its way. At the moment, some people are very unhappy with the current situation with Michel Temer. And this text that you're hearing, this man who's speaking, he's a very funny guy, Ciro. he's talking about this unhappiness with Temer and how the children of Brazil, the children of São Paulo, are unhappy with his impeachment of Dilma Rousseff. Their adult bodies in children's clothing. The politics currently has that kind of character to it, of adults playing out a set of roles for ends that are, in many cases, seems to be nefarious. It seems like their interests are not about the people of Brazil. I mean, you find that, of course, at home. Some people say that certain folk are like that at home as well. People have compared Temer to Trump or Kaczynski in Poland. So
I can see that. There's
yes.
a skull thing going here.
Oh, yeah, death is
Pope.L.
everywhere.
Death is everywhere.
And also the sense of an unknown, because your certainty, your sense of your community has gone awry in some way, in some serious way. And you're trying to clarify that. So death doesn't always have to mean the end. It can simply mean the unknown.
Change.
Or change with a dark edge to it. Brazil still has a lot of strong social programs, unlike some in the United States. And those, Temer has, in certain ways, threatened those programs. And many of these people rely on those things. So I think that sense of certainty that people in Brazil have had, well, that's being questioned. And for reasons that are not clear to them.
That's why this piece fits perfectly with the theme of the biennial.
Living
uncertainty.
Yes.
Tell me about the gestures, their choreography.
Some of these actions you would see at rallies or
Definitely.
At the manifestations, they call them here.
Yes.
The protests.
And there have been those protests in the Biennial Pavilion this week. And the gestures and the words, yes. Mm-hmm. It's quite reflective of what I've been seeing.
The police and how they react with their shields, how they bang their shields, almost like African warriors. They bang their shields and they approach. They form a line like Roman soldiers, and as they approach you, they bang their shields, almost like they're flushing the animals from the bush. Only, of course, it's much louder and more threatening. It's a mixture of some of the gestures you see in Festa Debutante and this protest manifestation actions. And it switches back and forth, almost from the political to the romantic and back.
What has been the public response?
Curiosity. It's an interesting city, São Paulo. Some people yell. Some of it I don't understand, but it's been translated for me. Some man was talking about, there's my parents. So for some, the Festa Debutante is an outmoded form of coming of age. This is a extreme version. That's why his little pants. This comes from actually, I got the idea of countries having a civil function of parenting.
And leaders acting like children.
Yes, and then the citizens acting out or, simply bowing under and doing as they're told.
O Brasil de hoje, meus filhos dançam e dançam e dançam e dançam até que seus pés viram barro.
The performance makes a loop inside the city, taking the same path each day.
Part of it is the cyclical nature of human. How do you say? It suggests more meaning because it has now a structure.
What environments were you seeking to cross through?
Working class neighborhoods, neighborhoods that are more, in quote, run down. Gated neighborhoods, of which there are many here. Neighborhoods where there are people who just are hanging out in plazas. Neighborhoods where people are just doing their daily business, like Avenue Paulista is like that. Tons and tons of people, most of the times of day. You sort of wade your way through it. And there are certain streets here where people are elbow to elbow and there's vehicles like 2 inches from you. So there's very dense, hilly neighborhoods that you have to fight your way through. And there are some that are just very spacious.
Golpe! Azar de vocês, seus bocós! Golpe! Golpe! O que foi que eu fiz? Golpe?
Pope.L wrote the lyrics for the soundtrack. 2 hours long, the track features a male voice alternating with an atmospheric musical composition designed to transcend the big city soundscape. We cross through the edge of the Paulista district. It's a quiet night. We pass 2 outdoor homeless communities and a bar playing 80s rap music for a few customers. Once we pause for a fleet of nocturnal cyclists. What kind of memories does this bring back to you, watching them endure? You didn't have shifts of people.
No,
it was just you.
It's just me. That's why in some ways I guess the intrepidness of them, I never thought of myself that way. But I see it in them.
The whole world saw you that way.
Maybe a little protective of their energy. These guys are incredible. I mean, I know what it's like to do this.
As you can hear, performance can be an endurance. And now we're going to start talking about a magnificent 3-hour street performance coming to Miami Beach later this month. Here with me in the studio are curator Claire Tancons and artist Marinella Senatore. They're here to talk about Tide by Side, a spectacular event that will take place in the new cultural district called Faena District on Miami Beach. Let's set the stage for our conversation with the sound of one of the performances you'll encounter if you make your way to the district on Collins Avenue between 32nd and 36th Street on November 27th for an amazing processional. That was a slice of sound from a reversed conga created by 2 Cuban artists known as Los Carpinteros. And here in the studio with me are Claire Tancons and Marinella Senatore. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
The performance we just heard a slice of is one of 6 that will be fetting a new district on Miami Beach in a processional performance called Tide by Side. I'm going to introduce you first, Claire, just to tell them where you're coming from. Claire's the artistic director that's bringing all these performances together for us. And her practice in curating is an expanded field like mine is, in a way, because I curate this radio show and a podcast. She curates these experimental projects that involve the aesthetics of walking, marching, second lining, masquerading, and parading in participatory performances. Marinella shares that with her as well in some ways. The one that has been circulating around the Caribbean recently that she curated is called En Masse, Carnival and Performance Art of the Caribbean. And we met at Prospect, New Orleans 5 years ago when I recorded my first episode with Pope.L.
That's right.
So it's great to see you here in the studio, Claire.
Thank you so much, Cathy.
For this project, you're collaborating with Gio Wolf, an architect, and then Arto Lindsay doing sound, and working with Miami-based and international artists, including Marinella. Tell me about your vision for Tide by Side.
Thank you, Cathy. New Orleans is a great place to start indeed, because staying to live in New Orleans following Prospect 1, which is that which brought me there, further confirmed this intuition that I've always had, that's really fed by my curatorial and scholarly research about the power of some of these ongoing and continuously existing traditions of parades and processions and carnival. So, of course, in New Orleans, there's the weekly second lines, there's the yearly seasonal carnivals. Here in Miami, these traditions have been maintained by some of the Caribbean and Latin American communities. We can think of the Board Carnival, for instance. We can think of the Trinidadian and Caribbean populations. We can think of Junkanoo. And so, specifically within the context of Miami Beach, I wanted to bring to the fore these carnival energies and the way in which they impact community making on the one hand, but also claiming space on the other hand, both features of everyday city life that have come to become, I would say, even more important in the contemporary moment we live. So, for me, Tide by Side was really about looking and maintaining this ongoing work and research on carnival procession and performance, but also opening it up beyond its Caribbean roots and, looking towards the work of an artist such as Marinella, who is not so much concerned with any particular form of genre as much as she will herself expose to us, in the way in which we can form shared affinities among people and form constituencies that may not be otherwise possible if it wasn't for this human rapport that is created through various means of communications, including movement or movement-based, practices. So just to, wrap that up, Tide by Side is obviously a pun, the idea of building community in Miami Beach, in Miami more broadly, tide after tide, side by side. So with side by side the notion of community making, with tide after tide, a relationship to the ecology, an ecological economy of art making also. So Tide by Side, the opening processional performance of the Faena Art District, a really unprecedented mini urban experiment, at the core of which is the development of artistic practices that would not otherwise be so readily exposed or made visible. So, I am ever thankful to our patrons, Jimena Caminos, the executive director of Faena Art, and Alan Faena, for their vision and the way in which they literally think outside the walls in bringing this genre of what I like to call processional performance within such a large field of acceptance and recognition. To me, it's really quite significant that they would choose, such a medium to launch this international contemporary art center here in Miami Beach.
I think it's important for us to kind of situate the district, because the processional itself in the district covers 3 long blocks that are parallel to the beach. So if you come across the causeway to the beach, you don't go to South Beach, you go slightly north, and this new district encompasses different buildings, and it will be activating a geodesic dome, what they're calling a time capsule on the beach at the same time during Miami Art Week. But the long-term vision will be revealed in a way through this processional, I believe.
Yes, if I can speak to this briefly. So yes, the Faena District is situated around Collins Avenue between 32nd and 36th, and is snug between the Atlantic Ocean and Indian Creek. And so hence, again, the notion of, being between, tides. And as concerned the opening events, ours is the first, but there will also be a dance performance, Pam Tanovitz, the following day within the forum. There is also going to be a conversation and other events. So we're just one of a few.
Exactly. And we just could give that hours itself, right? But let's describe how the procession will unfold. Like, what artists are involved besides Marinella, who will have her own moment to talk about her amazing project with community groups.
Yes. So, Cathy, my co-directors, as you mentioned, are Otto Lindsay, who is taking care of the soundscape, which is composed of both live and pre-recorded mixes, and Gia Wolf, who's been helping us think spatially about the stage within which this processional performance can unfold, and is also taking a stab at lighting for the processional performance November 27, Sunday from 3 to 6. So a little bit of nighttime, a little bit of a temporal transition in that way as well. And then the artist, there's Los Carpinteros, the sound of their project of which we just heard, Conga Irreversible. There is Marinella Senatore, who will speak about her work. There is Carlos Betancourt, Miami's very own cherished artist. There is Carnival Arts, a wonderful community arts organization, also based in Miami. And there is the great Anthony Miralda, who is the first artist, as I was telling Marinella, whom I invited because of his partial residence to Miami and his veteran status within the parade field. But on
he, just to mention Miralda, I met him in Barcelona a few years ago, and his whole relationship with food culture will be playing out in his part of the performance, which should be pretty exciting.
Absolutely. And I think, you're asking me to reveal a little bit about how, Tide by Side will unfold. And I'm probably the last one to know. And the reason for that is that despite the organizing principle that I have implemented within it, whereby Carlos Betancourt and La Conga, Los Carpinteros will be playing off of each other in many ways. Marinella Senatore and Carnival Arts also will be in dialogue. Anthony Miralda will bring us all together. But it really is not a parade, certainly not of the triumphant kind. It will not solely unfold on Collins Avenue. It will really inflict emotion within the entirety of the Faena Art District, and specifically around the two key blocks within which sit the new OMA, Rem Koolhaas, Shohei Shigemitsu design, Faena Forum, Faena Bazaar, and Faena Park.
So those who come to experience this will not just be standing at the side of the street watching things go by. They will have opportunities to join in and explore the district too.
Absolutely. And this is where one begins to understand how malleable and how flexible this particular content provider that the processional performance can be. It's really a way to thread these various performances in time and space, but also to allow energy to rebound off of each other. So it is by no means a traditional carnival, neither it is fully a demonstration, although there will be such elements within it. It really is an original work of its own that is held very tightly, but also very in a very fragile fashion, based on the very energies that are produced in the very process of making that we're in, and the magic really of live performance, particularly of the massive dimension that this particular genre of performance takes. It is not something that is safely rehearsed, in a museum. It is not something that is bound by walls in any way. It is really something that happens live with hundreds of participants, thousands of audience members. So it's a very significant difference in terms of, the way in which we have come to think of performance. But Marinella, you can speak to that, I'm sure.
Yeah, let me introduce you now, Marinella. Thank you, Claire. That was
Thank
beautiful.
You, Cathy.
I'm wanting to be sure that people know about you as well, that you are from Italy, trained in music, fine arts, and film, and you have been embracing public participation in expansive public art performances for some time now, and I see you doing it all over the world. The School of Narrative Dance that you founded and use as a mobile platform for educating and bringing people together is playing a role in what you're doing here on Miami Beach, correct?
Yes, it's absolutely correct. When I firstly spoke with Claire, we thought immediately about the School of Narrative Dance in its Miami version. The School of Narrative Dance, as you said, was founded by me in 2013, and it's a nomadic, free of charge school based on emancipation, empowering of participants, and it's first of all a didactic project. We strongly believe in a horizontal system of education. The dance, among others, tools for storytelling, is one of the most powerful language that we use. Usually our students are not professional dancers at all, but we mix together people very different from age, background, desire, also wishes, and we negotiate with them constantly the kind of project the experience they want to live within the School of Narrative Dance. And that's exactly what we bring here in Miami, the melting pot and the mix of people and the different languages they speak with the body or also with their voice, connected with their memory, the community memory. Sometimes it's super important but also very flexible at the same time. So we adapt constantly the project to the place where we are working.
I see. Well, I've seen it happen because I met you in Lyon when you've done 3 amazing projects there. And I'm really excited to hear about what community groups you're bringing together this time. Who are you working with in Miami?
It's very exciting for me because every time is different. I can't imagine what kind of groups, individuals I will meet. I just spread my open call as I used to do, and now my way to work and the structure of work is absolutely flexible accordingly with the desire of people. So here we will work with professional and amateur dancers, with wrestlers, of course with the Caribbean and musicians, and an orchestra, classical trio, chamber, just male choir, so different soundscapes, and ballet dancers. We are already in contact with a lot of people that will make a slow march. In my opinion, as Claire explained very well, also the movement of the audience, it's a very important political and social gesture, because moving massively and together, we find ourselves and we recognize ourselves as a community, as a group. We explore the space, and the body in a space is always a political fact, which is important. As Latins say, I walk so I exist. And that's the meaning behind a segment of my contribution to Tide by Side, which will be a very, very slow march, which is also a sign of resistance, but absolutely pacific and compelling. For instance, in Mumbai, around the Gandhi house, every day there are young and very old people just marching, super slowing. That's a way to reconnect themselves with their mind, their life, and the environment, and also to protest about something. It's a movement extremely graceful and very powerful. So we will have even a lot of workers and people not trained at all in dance marching during the procession.
So will there be a theme costume-wise? Will we recognize that it's your people?
I guess so, because
of how they're moving?
Yes, I guess so, because for the School of Narrative Dance, we work here in Miami accordingly with the result of our open call, because it's never an abusive role from the artist or something that I conceived before. Based on the result and the desire of people and the energy of people joining my project, we will have a lot of dissonances between languages. So we will have wrestlers that work together as antagonists to ballet dancers, this very big group of slow marching people, and classical music, and static individuals that stroke poses that means something and for them, and we don't ask people to make something behind their possibility or something that they are not comfortable to do. It's very according with their possibility and their wishes.
How many people does it turn out to be that you're choreographing this time?
At the moment, We have an average of 100 people, but we are still recruiting and we have a lot of meetings still. We are also in contact with the tap dancer, which will embrace what I call the fight of dancers. They will perform a cappella. They will pretend to make a sort of fight. And so there are visions that belong also to our political and social imaginary. Also gymnastic will join us. So you will see a lot of dissonances with the then Rara band and more Caribbean music and rhythm and energy. So different energy, different rhythm, a very human landscape that changes constantly, and explore the place and involve also the audience and engage the audience to take part at the very end of the performance.
If I may interject, about costumes, right? In much the same way that the dress doesn't make the man, the costume does not make the carnival. So it's really the dimension of motion and movement understood both as motion of the body and social movement, right? Exactly. And so that's really what we're bringing to the Faena Art District within the context of Tide by Side. In a moving landscape, as you very
love
well
that
put.
human landscape. I think that is a good descriptive. Right?
Yes, but also really, this temporary community that we have been forming for 2 years that we've been working on the project, that we are further cementing within, the weeks leading up to what is in fact only but the culmination of a long process that we also do hope will continue after the performance is over.
That was my last question. The two of you, what do you hope that Miami Beach, Miami takes away from this Tide by Side experience?
I hope that there will be a sustained engagement with this particular ways of coming together in public space and affecting the urban and social landscape, intervening within architectural space. I hope that maybe it will become a seasonal event that can recur. And I hope that our minds and heart and bodies will be transformed, because ultimately these processes are transformative. And performance is meant to be transformative. And I think it is even more so and even more true when it's on the mass scale with such great popular reach. So it's a transformative process. And so that's what I hope will be the outcome of Tide by Side, a transformation on any social, material, and we dare say political level.
In addition of that, I can just say that based on my experience also in these last 15 years, art can just suggest changes and transformation. So it will be wrong to trying to dominate this moment. The result of this experience is up to the people, and they will decide what to do with that. But for sure, engaging people in meetings with the individuals, group very different from each other, with different cultures, ages, desire, activist interest, etc. It's a powerful bond that rarely it's lost after the project is finished. So this kind of project like Tide by Side can engage and instigate people to continuous, maybe with the same people they met or with the others, but for the appropriation of the space and the social space. So it's a very big instigator, I will say.
Yeah. Providing the tools more so than the form or a packaged, spectacle. It is anything but that. And it is indeed up to the audience to come and join. And that's why it is much more of a process, a processional performance, than a stage parade, than a canned spectacle. So
I think that's a great orientation for those who are listening that will want to know more. Where would they go to find out more about Tide by Side?
The Faena Art website has a page dedicated to our project. There's an insert in the Miami Herald that is coming up soon, and more digital communication, Facebook, Instagram, of course, all social media. So the information is out there.
So you'll get information, listeners, about what exactly is happening, how to get there, where to approach the event, and more details about what will actually happen when each of the performers, the artists that bring energy to Tide by Side, what you can anticipate.
But just to recap, Tide by Side, Sunday, November 27th, from 3 to 6, but we're encouraging the public to arrive as soon as 2, if only for parking purposes, and to stay on. Indeed, they're, tasting bites, food will be served out of Anthony Miralda's The Last Ingredients project, experiments with various native food, going from conch, avocado, maize, etc., etc. But Sunday, November 27th, 3 to 6, Faena Art District, between 32nd and 36th Street, between the Atlantic Ocean and Indian Creek, around Collins Avenue.
Thank you so much for being here with me today, Marinella Senatore and Claire Tancons.
Thank you so much, Cathy.
We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Well, in just about 10 days.
1, 2, 3, 10 days.
10 days.
Okay, the excitement is building. Thank you.
Thank you, Cathy.
Thank you.
Before I introduce our next guest, Alexis Gideon, I want you to listen to an excerpt of his new video opera, The Comet and the Glacier.
When I first saw the almanac, it took me back a ways. To days long gone in my childhood room on the yellow and green rug on the floor. The smell of the old pages and saturation of the illustrations reverberating in my mind. I remembered reading these stories so vividly, but this was impossible. The almanac had just been discovered in Deisenhofen. Abstract associations, faded vacations, and traces of train stations drift steadily, readily, merrily, verily, preparing me with elegies for memories and melodies. Can it be, or was it when, or was it then, or was it what was it when, what was it? Was it again and again and again? Fuzzy outlines in the reaches of my mind. These moments must be mine, cause I change them every time. I misremember them, but it's proof on a faded receipt, complete with a whitening Polaroid approaching the void of the paper. Racking my brains in the back of the trains of thought, raw with the story of the comet and the glacier. With the story of the comet and the glacier. With the story of the comet and the glacier.
This is the Fresh Art International show on Jolt Radio. We just played an excerpt of Alexis Gideon's newest work, The Comet and the Glacier. And Alexis is here in the studio today. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Alexis is a Pittsburgh-based artist, does visual arts. He's a composer and performer, and he has presented animated live operas around the world. I had a chance to drop by Locust Projects this week and see the installation in process and hear you rehearse. And we were talking before the show that while this newest project combines installation, music, video, performance, animation, clay reliefs, and paintings on glass, that's intense.
Yeah, it is pretty intense. It's very maximal.
It's maximal.
Very maximal.
I run out of breath listing what's going to be involved. But you had told me that this is the first time you've actually presented an installation with your opera.
Yes, it is. Usually it's 1 or 2 nights at an institution. I show up and perform alongside the projection. But with this piece at Locust, it's the first big build out and immersive installation that is going to be taking it to the next level and bringing the audience into a space to heighten the work. Often creates like its own universe, and I think that'll be really heightened by having the immersive installation element for this one.
And we're going to be talking about exactly what will be the experience. But first, I want to know, why opera? What has attracted you to opera? There seems to be a trend of engagement of contemporary art with opera, and I'm fascinated.
That's a good question. I think opera is a term I use. Video opera is a term I used to explain the performances I do, although opera is a bit of a misnomer in the sense that it's not like classical opera at all. And it in terms of stylistically, it doesn't sound like opera, but all the narration and dialogue of the stories that the video operas are told through music, and that's why I use that term. So my background is in music, and then I made the crossover to visual art when I really wanted a narrative and visual element in my work, and that's why it's called opera. But people, I think the image that comes up when people hear that word is pretty different than what they end up seeing if they come.
I would say you're right, based on my experience of a rehearsal. Let's describe the visitor encounter that's being built as we speak.
Yeah.
And Alexis has been putting in some super long hours to get this project ready, and Locust has a team working with him to create this very interesting experience. Maybe start with our experience of your childhood through the installation. How does that play out?
Yeah, well, the piece of Comet in the Glacier is a lot about memory and childhood memories and sort of remembering things that were impossible for you to remember, remembering things that didn't happen. And the piece really focuses on fiction and fact and truth and how we create our own truth and what is fictitious about that. So there are many different stories of narrative, and one of the ways that plays out is in the installation, there are different structures that you go and experience parts of the narrative, parts of the video in, and one of them is a kind of poetic replication of my childhood bedroom, where you see some of the what I've been terming video poems. There's two of them that start and end the piece on memories of growing up in New York City. So that's one of the structures.
I noticed both of them reference water and the beach, which is interesting since here we are at the edge of the ocean.
Well, I always, as a kid, I lived on Madison Avenue in New York City, and it was kind of a lot of traffic at night, and always hearing the traffic go by, and it always was soothing to me. I know a lot of people don't find that easy to sleep to, but to me it sounded like the ocean, and that's a really deep memory, and traffic always kind of seems like the ocean to me. So tying in the displacement of memory, and you can be remembering experiences when you're somewhere completely different. So the idea of water and the beach in New York City and that juxtaposition is kind of at the center of those parts of the work. And yeah, it makes a lot of sense that here we are at the beach for where the show will happen.
I know many times I've talked myself into thinking that all the traffic is just water.
It's nicer that way.
Flowing by. I think so. The next place that we stop, I believe you'd want people to stop at a replica of your office for a piece called The Almanac, which is behind the Comet in the Glacier story.
Yes. So the office is based on, there's a stop motion animation in some of the video, and I'm a main character. A fictitious version of me is a main character, and my character encounters this book called The Almanac that I remember reading as a child, but the book had just been discovered, and so my character decides to pick a title from the table of contents of the Almanac that he hasn't read, or I haven't read, entitled The Comet in Glacier, and create my own version of it. So that part of the narrative is told in the replica of the stop motion, the life-size replica of the stop motion set of my character's office.
In the Almanac, he finds a story called The Comet in the Glacier.
Yes.
And the other two parts play out. You can always tell me if I didn't get this right, but I think I've got it.
You're getting it.
Two medieval huts are going to be inside the space, and the spaces wherein these stories are told that are based on medieval ideas of astronomy from the 15th and 16th century.
That is exactly correct. So there's my character's version of the story, which is told through videos of paintings on glass that I did. And then the other version, which is the original version written by Frederick Otto Buehler, who's the fictitious author of the almanac.
Who is actually Alexis Gideon.
Yeah, who's who's product.
So Bueller's version is his viewpoint. Your viewpoint is based on your imagination of what that story was about, since you can't actually read it.
Right.
Or maybe never did.
Right.
It's very confusing, this project.
It's a little. It's a lot of layers of narrative and a lot of. But yeah, it is confusing. But
I love your version. I have to say, is told from the perspective of the people that live on a comet, see a glacier coming in the sky.
Yes.
And what is Bueller's version?
Bueller's version is the people who are on the glacier seeing the comet approaching in the sky. And the two stories have some differences, but they also are intertwined. It investigates the idea of other and the idea of displacement and the idea of what's approaching.
What's approaching as in our future?
It is a bit of a cautionary tale.
I would say.
And it seems strangely more relevant with recent political events than I thought.
You've written that your work examines the loss of the mystical in contemporary society. When I hear it, reading, deciphering the story, and figuring out how to describe it with you, I feel that it's the loss of a sense of the mythical. There are a lot of myths we live with, contemporary myths and urban legends and things like that, but this way you're talking about the mystical and the mythical, tell me.
Well, I think that's dead on. I think it is about the loss of the mythical, and I think so much about myth is about stories and storytelling, and I think that we've gotten further away from that. And this piece kind of looks at it in the sense by focusing on memory, and memory sort of personal myth. I think that we all can relate to the personal myths of memories, because we kind of construct our concepts of ourselves out of our memories, which are, of course, faulty. Or maybe they're not faulty, but they're not the same as if someone was recording it on a camcorder. It would have been different than what we remember.
Let's talk, of course, about how your live performance interacts with these installations now.
Yes. So
how does that work?
So there's 5 chapters that take place in a 4-channel video installation in these 4 structures we've talked about. And the audience kind of, when it's not during the performance, goes through the space and finds these different fragments of the story that all have resonances in each other, and it creates this emotive, dreamy experience of the story. And then the only time the narrative is told from the beginning to the end straight through is when I do the live performance. And the live performance, I'm alongside the projection, performing all the music, and the characters move their mouths in sync with my delivery, and kind of takes the storytelling to the final capitulation of it by being the immediacy of having me there, and it unfolding in real time changes it and makes it more makes it a communal experience, because people bring whatever their interpretations are to it, and people bring their emotions to it. It becomes at its purest level the most immediate form of the communication of the ideas.
I found it a really hypnotic experience when I got to be there for the rehearsal. One of the rehearsals, you seem to keep going on that.
Got to be prepared.
Yeah, definitely. And so where can our listeners discover more about your operas? And this one in particular, where should they go?
Well, they should come to Locust Projects if they're going to be around from November 19th through January 21st.
This is an in real life opportunity,
Yeah.
Both of these that we spoke of today.
But they can go, I guess, on my website and alexisgideon.com and find out more information there when I might be coming to a town near them.
And locustprojects.org actually has the schedule of all the times you'll be performing live.
Yes, which is quite a bit coming up in the next couple of weeks. I think we have 11 performances or something like that. So there's some good opportunities to come out and experience a piece. And please say hi and we can talk.
Absolutely. So are you super excited about this?
I am so excited. It's been such a great process, and working with Locust Projects has been amazing. They've been really so supportive in figuring out how to do practical things to pushing the concepts and pushing critical ideas. So it's been kind of like whole everything. They're there for it, and it's been a dream to work with them. And I'm going to be sad when it's over and I have to leave. I feel like part of the family.
That's great. And for those who come and experience it, what are you What's your aim? What do you want for the takeaway
Well,
from the Comet and the Glacier?
I try to create a narrative that maybe doesn't move linearly. I don't want people necessarily to come and understand it as if, oh, I understood everything that story was about, but I want them to move through it and the narrative to move through emotionally. So I want people to come in and have an emotional experience, an evocative experience that maybe brings up their own memories and brings up a dream state, a dream consciousness where maybe the exact meaning of what's happening isn't clear, but the feelings that it gives you are clear and that something significant happened.
So you're encouraging those who experience it to create their own mythologies, maybe
Definitely.
remember their own childhood memories in new ways and think of what they might mean.
Yeah, and how it relates to the people on either the Comet or the Glacier, depending on which one they're on.
That's true. Thank you, Alexis Gideon, for being on my show.
Thank you so much for having me, Cathy. It was really a pleasure.
Listeners, if you're enjoying our programs on Fresh Art International, please follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Fresh Art INTL and Jolt Radio. This is Fresh Art International, and I'm Cathy Byrd. We're broadcasting live from the Jolt studio in Miami, Florida. Join us each week for our contemporary art talk show.